in the 1920s was bankrupt, but they had no accounting department.
Well, they had James Cousins. They had an accounting department. We had one of the most brilliant people in finance in the automotive history. And if you really know about Ford, Ford was an absolute genius at putting together the right people at the right time and the right job. Henry couldn't read a drawing. Henry was not a machinist. Walter Kaiser, or Knight, is the one that made the machining. James Cousins was the accountant that figured out how to get the dealers to pay for the cars. You know, it was amazing. You know, Edsel did, I think, more good stuff, engineering-wise, than Henry, to be actually truthful.
Edsel was the one that brought the Lincoln division in.
Oh, not really.
He was the big mover and shaker.
Where did Lincoln come from?
It was an independent company.
Guess who it was? Leland.
Okay.
They owned Cadillac. They also owned part of Henry's second company, and Henry was pissed. And he used to go hide in Dearborn Woods when they come out wanting to build a fancy car, and he wanted to be a cheap car. When Leland sold Cadillac to, I can't remember how, I want to say DuPont, wasn't him. Anyway, the guy that was running GM putting it together.
Oh, Durant.
Durant. Then he came over when they built the Lincoln. And he bought Lincoln. And everything's going to be okay, he said. He came in the next day and fired everybody, including the janitor, and took Lincoln. But he bought it from Leland, because that's the people who did it. So you have to appreciate that Henry Ford was one of the high dollar people that did really great stuff. And I just appreciate the hell out of the people who was Durant, who were the Dodge brothers. And if you read about those people a whole lot, you learn to understand what it took to be what they were. Now, Henry Ford was no slouch either. He was at Detroit Edison in a manager's job making big money. Lived in a great big house and gave the whole goddamn thing out, went bankrupt 3 times. Ended up living in a little shack for a couple of $20 a month and come up and put everything on the line every day. The other one, which I thought was insane, was Walter P. Chrysler. You know what he was doing in 1928? He was the plant manager for General Motors. He was making relatively $500,000 a year and quit and started his own car company in 1929. The only thing that my dad was doing and my grandpa was hiding. We had a furniture company started in 1878 until 1946. So we know how to make furniture, but we don't know how to keep the doors open. My grandpa and my dad was in the Army. But those guys went out. They went out and they didn't give a quarter, and they didn't back down.
Well, Ford had a couple of publicly owned companies before he
the Dodge brothers got a piece.
And he said
Greenleaf got a piece, which is the coal company, which was in almost every car company up there. In fact, we rented buildings from my tool company. You know, they still had cars in it, antique cars, you know. But they all were in it. But then they got to fucking with him, and he said, "Don't do that. I don't want you to do that."
So he formed his own corporation.
And he formed his own corporation.
100%.
And Cousins is the one that figured out how to take them out of this deal. And they ended up with 0 equity and a 0 company, and Ford had all the rest. In 1950, he got that. And after that, he went ahead and went around. And the Dodge brothers, he cheated everybody but the Dodge guys.
Hey, Terry. I'm going to get the Bronco out. Individually, I'm going to take them each for a ride in your Bronco.
Okay.
Just down to the rhinos and back.
Right.
Question for you.
I'm just going to put a
Question for you.
here real quick.
Yes, sir.
This is a broom factory.
Yes, sir. Stone load room.
Were your presses DC driven or AC?
Oh, the presses up in the plant were AC,
AC.
in the plant.
The power was already in the plant, or do you have to?
Well,
get all that in?
well, we had to put they had enough power at the substation, we just had to get it to the building.
So you're fortunate there.
Yes.
Very fortunate.
Oh yeah, we'd have been murdered if we had put it up. You know, my first design I ever did, I'm not electrical. I don't know electrical from a banana peel.
Right.
And this is a cute story because my uncle had a nervous breakdown. Because you can't be 10 years on a trouble crew. It'd be the guy that's responsible.
Right.
And he ended up with acrophobia. And he could not work in the regular environment. Well, I wasn't big enough and forward to get him his job back. He went out and he interviewed Hogue. And he called me up and he said, I got a job at John G. Hogue. I said, what are you doing? He said, I don't know. And he called me and said, we're going to build a substation to run a 125-foot automatic cardboard making thing. I said, what in the hell is that? And he said, I don't know. So he came over to my house in Garden City, Michigan. We went to the library on a Sunday, Saturday and Sunday. We got the books on substations. So we could know what the hell what it was.
Right.
Had no clue. He went to work Monday at Hogue. In 30 days, he had a substation designed. John G. Hogue personally had hired him, personally was taking care of him mentally. He said it normally takes a doctorate of engineering 3 to 6 months to do this. You can't have done it right in 30 days. Bob says, there it is. It was right. Oh, okay, now design the electric control system for the multi-station activities. Okay, we can do that. Yeah, so we did it. I have one of my favorite things. I was walking out of a Ford plant with a guy from Nordson. He says, you guys ought to make a reciprocator. I said, what does that do? He says, well, when you lose electrostatic paint, the more amperage you can get in it, you have to have an automatic mover because you can't put people on the gun.
Right.
I said, oh, okay. So that was like 8 o'clock in the morning. I walked over to Uncle Bob's house and we were eating breakfast. You want to make a reciprocator? To do what? Well, I don't know exactly what they're going to move a gun, yada, yada, yada. Oh, yeah, we can do that. So I called up this guy and I said, yeah, we can do that. How much weight do we got to carry? You know, how fast we got to go, yada, yada. And about 30 days later, we handed him an automatic reciprocator that you put in the floor, stand it up, and turn on the valve and adjust it infinitely to 150 foot per second. And it will carry a 170-pound man or a 40-pound gun. And we can wrap and paint a whole garage door with 2 guns. And all you do is plug it in there. No electricity.
Right.
And we just did that because it was something fun to do.
Right.
And then we made an electric car.
Yeah, I went to work in Norfolk Naval Shipyard
Oh yeah.
in 1980.
I got a cousin in that ship.
Well, I spent 41 years.
Oh man, that's
But when I first went there, I was in charge of all 450 acres, 8,000 pieces of industrial brakes, presses,
oh Lord.
lathes, do 70-ton shafts and all
Oh,
that
yeah, that's
stuff.
great.
And it was all DC driven back then.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But it started burning up, you know.
Oh.
So I started retrofitting every machine to AC
DC's not much
440.
fun. Yeah, sure.
You know.
Oh, I've had some wars. One of my favorites. I was at Wholesale Tool Company, and I said, we got to have a number 2 Cincinnati grinder. And Mike says, what's that? I don't know. It says I got to have one. So he called me. The truck driver called me up and said, I got one of them things. I said, what thing? He said, I got a C, number C, but I can't get it in my truck. I said, what do you can't get in the truck? He said, I can't get the thing high enough to get it in there. So I said, where are you at? He told me, so I went over there. I said, oh shit, there's this big iron up there in here. I said, oh well, okay. Let's push it back and forth and get it swinging, and I'll tell you when to back under the fucker.
Whoa,
That's kind
That's
of
how we got it on the truck.
this dude's awesome.
And we got it to the shop. We couldn't figure out how to get it off. And I said, well, we got a tip bed, so we'll put tires down here at the wall and slide the fucker off. When it runs into the wall, we'll drag it off of there. And that's how we got it in the shop. And I got back here and I didn't know a cutter grinder from a banana. But they had all these fixtures and goody things there. So I finally got it wired up and I reached over and unplugged. a 220 amp thing
Yeah, he had
without,
22
forgot to
cents.
turn it off.
The EFO.
And that didn't work very good at all. So I worked and worked and worked with all the shit, and I had one thing I couldn't figure out what it did. I could not figure out what kind of cutter. Now we had a 10,000-foot building full of cutters. Milling machine, side cutters, convoluted, got everything you could think of. Slab wheels had it all. So then I started looking for somebody to hire to run this thing. And I had a guy, his name was Steve.
That's what he's getting it out for.
He came from cross manufacturing. And he was, what I did, I said, do you know how to set a machine up?
Me.
And I said, hey, you have this thing up. And I gave him that picture, said, what do you do now? Go out and find a cutter that run. It was for a gear cutter,
Oh,
convolute gear cutter.
yeah,
A 16.5-degree pressure angle.
right,
And they have 22 too.
right.
All right, and he knew how to set it up. I said, you're hired. Because he knew what I didn't know, so he must be better than I was. Then I got a great big OD grinder, 36-inch wheel, 4 inches wide, 40 horse. Didn't have a clue what the hell it did. But we managed. Then I took surface grinders and made them into gum out machines. I made a 4-step mandrel where you slap a cutter on and you take and increase the chip clearance. And then you may have seen these because I'm the guy that designed it. They step back off on his milling cutter and a drill. Well, I'm the one that figured that out in 1962. No, 60-something was how to make them. We made those cutters that way. And that was a fun job. I got pictures of shit we made back there, slab cutters, and people call me up and say, I need a so-and-so. Okay, we'll put it out on phone. Mail order comes all over the world. Loved it. Then I went to Ford, and I used to joke with the guys at Ford and Chrysler. I'd sell cutters occasionally. They weren't big on used shit like we were. We were recycling World War II shit. And I said, when I get a job and retire, I'm going to get a 40-hour job like you got. I went to work June 27th at Ford at 10:30 in the morning. You know when I got off? Christmas at 8:30. 7 days a week, 12 or more a day, and it never stopped. And I loved every minute of it.
Well,
it was fun.
with all the places you've been, from Canada to Oklahoma and all that, how the hell did you end up in Bedford?
I will tell you, it's a simple story. I had a shop in California. I had one Bricklin shop in Michigan. I had a glass company, which I owned a third of in Michigan, and I had a hydraulics company, which I owned half of. Because I'm the only registered Parker hand repair depot in the world, other than Parker. John Parker let me be one because I'm that good in hydraulics. I'm the only guy, two of us in the world that can fix a J35 hydraulic riveter. We're the only ones who know how. And these were designed in 1934. So I was there, and my company in Chester, New Jersey, which I was my bigger main depot, quit. And I had 895 cars that were influenced within 8 hours of
I'm actually talking about
Philadelphia.
that.
What?
Not yet. I was.
Now I moved to
telling
Detroit,
Tyler I was actually
hating
going to ask
every
you
minute.
about the
My wife
control
hates
on
it.
brackets. 'Cause I've
We
seen
lived there
online
30
you
years
have
and hated
the-
all of it. We got caught
Yeah,
up. But
windows and the
So,
controls, it's a package.
But
my
you
daughter did a
recommend to
demographic
replace
map and
the,
said, okay.
included
I said,
hardware
well, nobody would live in
and the,
Philadelphia without a
yeah,
gun to
hardware.
their head. Why would you
But
do
you want the
that?
lower control arms too.
It's worse
This
than
boxing
Detroit.
is just bullshit. I mean, it's like putting
So,
lipstick on a pig. Tyler's lower control arm,
The
my lower control arm.
scenario went that I was thinking about it. I was going to move one of my guys
Oh, you're
out
like
to
the
Philadelphia. And I got to thinking,
I'm figuring
You're a TV
my
star.
last daughter's in Michigan
still,
State.
the brackets,
Graduates,
they're
she's
fairly
now a
easy
college
to install,
professor.
right? Like you don't have to take out.
My other one was already
I'm
in
fit-
the Air
with
Force.
the
She's a
suspension in
controller.
place.
Yeah, see, I'm
Or
figuring
company or assistant
do that
controller, I'm
on
sorry.
probably my
And
car,
the
and
other
Ron's
one's here.
car, and then see how that works, and then if
And-
I-
You've got a daughter living
then
in
if that
Bedford.
Well,
doesn't
she was
help enough,
California.
then go ahead and do the
Oh, she was
control
Detroit
arms.
at
I just
that
don't
time.
wanna
She
don't
came here
trust
later.
myself to take apart
So I
the
said, wait a
suspension.
minute,
Nothing
we
to
don't
it.
like
Nothing to it.
Detroit.
We can do
We
it at
hate it.
DMA.
We've
though.
been
switched
13
out the
times
the shorter
trying to find a
bullhorn
location
in the
where
parking
people
lot
live.
without jacking the car.
Rather than
Yeah, you can do it with this, but I mean, if you
So
want
I
to
said,
swap
wait
out
a
the
minute,
control
we don't
arms,
need to
nothing
do that.
to
My
it.
wife's still in school now.
Yeah.
My wife has
We
6
have it done.
majors and 4
I'm
minors.
just gonna pull
400
400 car.
credits.
Hers has the aluminum
Sound like
control
mine.
arms
She
that
likes
were
to go to
produced.
So you
school.
talk about Kirby's?
Mine
She could go
I
forever.
don't think.
Right.
I'm not sure if they're
Yeah,
Kirby's.
and-
They're the
so anyway,
first
we got to
replacement
talking
control
about it.
arms that were made.
And for a year, we would,
I
anytime we
don't think the
came
previous owner of that car
eastbound,
would have used Herbie.
we would
parts.
kind of wander out in this area. Well, I have a friend of mine, runs Kubota
Kirby was selling
tractor.
a solid
for
aluminum
Southern America,
roll control arm
Southeastern
that
America.
would have been,
So I called Mark up, I said, where in the hell would you live?
late
He said
aughts,
Williamsburg.
like maybe 2008.
I said, what?
2008, somewhere in there.
Actually, that might.
I've been over
they
Virginia,
might
but
be
I've never
Herbie
been
control
in.
arms then.
So we
Her
came
car is
down
is
with
a new
a
build.
motorhome
It was
and-
built
Now,
in
he
made
may
by
have bought
Jack
the inventory for somebody
to
else.
haul cars
That's true,
inside. I called it my one-car garage,
Because,
3-bedroom
I just
home.
never
Because
heard
once he exhausted his
And you
inventory,
had
no
2
more
beds
ever
in
came.
it.
I just
And
never
stove,
heard of
refrigerator, the whole
Herbie
thing. I
making
took
lower
it to
controls, but I heard about
Been
this one
42
guy.
states in
Well,
there.
no, he sold
So
them,
we came down,
but he
picked car
probably
in
didn't have
DC.
CNC file.
And
Probably
came down
bought-
to Richmond.
It's just like when Herbie bought all the
And
windshields. Remember the guy that
The
bought
lady
all
says, you don't
windshields
like it
over
here. I
Europe?
said,
Herbie
man, it
bought
was
all the stuff.
105 degrees.
Some guy was
And
like,
it's Garden
this is
City,
Maryland
Michigan.
or somewhere.
Suddenly.
The guy that had the private
She said,
airplane
go to
that brought all the
Roanoke.
windshields
I
in.
said, what is a
Herbie bought them
Roanoke?
all.
And how do I get there?
Okay.
She told me what road
But
come
he
down.
may
I
have bought
went
the
down
stock
there.
from somebody.
Lady came out, jumped in her
I just had my
car,
whole
took us on the parkway.
every place on
And
something.
we had a
Ellen
tax
would
bill
need-
for a $90,000
But she's still going to have
house
to
for
deal with when she's
$394.
driving down the road. There's a strip.
Yeah,
My tax bill for a
It does that, and the
$94,000
bump
house
steer is pretty
was
bad.
$4,000.
It's worse. The bump steer is
Am I
worse on
having
my
fun?
car with the box.
So we took the
control.
newspaper from Roanoke and said, this is cool.
Who's got the pen on them?
And I have 60 acres here. You're sitting in the dead middle of it, 1,122 foot in the front of this building. That's what I
All
wanted.
right.
I can
This
see
is
in
the
the front
problem
yard, you
with
can
our
see
sway
me
bar.
and let you fly over.
I mean, I know about the whole
Now, part of this
control
is
arms.
we
They
planted
move around all over the
15,000
place as
Yeah.
you're driving.
Well, this
And like you can feel it. Like,
And
if you try and
I-
stop and the road is
now,
sloped a little bit.
I was
the
in
car
Roanoke
goes like
for a
crazy.
while, and then I had to rent a building about 8 miles from here. And I went down to Bedford one day and had to back up to make the turn with my motorhome.
And this is the sway
And I said,
bar.
okay, this is what I like.
That 45
And
degree.
years ago, we were at a race
Imagine how it's
in
piece of
Ugly,
steel.
Michigan.
Imagine how bendy it would be.
And Uncle
if
Bob
it's
and I
straight
came
out.
out there and it was 194 degrees. And we
We're
saw a little dirt
halfway
road says
from being
town.
straight out at the 45.
He said, let's
But
go
still,
down there and get
it's
something
not
to
as
drink. We had the
it's
car
this,
on
but
the
it's
trailer and
still
everything.
allowing that little
And,
wheel to get out from above.
in fact, it was
Allowing
like
the
Dodge
control
pickup
arm.
was on there. And
Our
We
sway
got
bar
down
looked
there.
like this, which is not possible
And-
in our frame shape.
had a drugstore of the 40s.
Just imagine if the sway bar made a 90-degree bend and came back like that.
Marble
It would
top
work
wicker
perfectly.
chairs,
It would
3
be
painting
perfect.
dues with a big counter.
But that's
We
not
actually got a
because
chocolate
our
soda.
couple extension ends right
With
here.
real soda zit down
How
there.
much of a difference?
We
did
walked
the,
out and looked at a brick
rack
street.
the polyurethane
It was a block
bushings
long.
from Toby.
And my mom said, why are we in
You
this
talking
building?
on the sway bar?
Yeah.
This is little town America. This is
Because
lovely.
you don't need them.
And we're sitting in Detroit.
I mean,
That's
I
disgusting.
don't know.
At-
I don't know.
And we'd all
at 80
left.
mile-
We were
85,
there.
about 85 plus. Not the peg.
So anyway, we get
I'm
there.
going like this.
And I remember that
Surround the bed.
forever. And I got down here and I looked
Yeah.
around and
You're
the
my
biggest
car.
thing in Bedford is
course you
churches
got
and
practice.
lawyers, because it's the
Oh,
county
and that's
seat.
one thing. If
And
you
I
tighten
thought,
up
ain't
front
that
end,
wonderful?
your
Population
rear
is
end gets even
5,600
squirrelier.
for
I
somewhere
don't
near
notice the
100
swirly
years.
rear ends on.
And I thought that was
I mean, I
kinda
haven't
cool.
driven either one of them hard enough yet.
And I had a truck driver actually
If you
found
push
his
it
property. I was having trouble finding
The
something
more
that
you tighten up
fit
the
what I
front, the
wanted.
worse the rear becomes.
And I bought the property
No.
and
I got
then
Coopers.
put in the road, put in the building first.
No.
We lived in the
problem is
motorhome.
we have shit tires.
Took showers at the
The
line.
problem is we got 65%
had the
of our
log
cars weight
cabin
hanging out
made in
behind
Maine.
the rear axle.
And
We have
brought
no
down
rear
our
sway
train.
bars. We
Was
got
anything here when you
wobbly
bought
rear
this?
end. Have
Nothing.
you ever seen anybody?
They're
crossing
empty
the
and
road?
trees.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a
And
pretty sight.
little animals
Justin
living.
spun his
Justin
out.
spun
And
his
this
3
building,
Yeah. We have no rear sway bar.
that log cabin, I went out
Rear sway bar.
and walked in the snow.
I think there's
At
Toby's
Greenville
been
Village
making
to
a
get the
prototype for
sizes
years
of the one
apparently.
that Henry brought from
The biggest
Maine.
problem is what you're going to push
And put
against.
up,
yeah.
Because you have this
And
crappy
we measured
frame.
the the
Let's
thing,
be honest, I'm afraid
and that's
of
up on a
shit.
hill.
Where were you in Roanoke?
It's 16 gauge.
I was just in a
What
building
people don't
on
realize. I mean, I'm not going to go
in
into
that
debt. Don't get me wrong. But I'm not going to
condominium
pretend that
area.
there's something that they're not.
where the big scrapyard is, right on Roanoke.
But what people
You
don't
turn right
realize,
there and go up in there. There's a building up there I
This is
rented.
another
Okay.
missing
And,
our cars.
I had
In
a-
the Franklin Road area?
Yeah. Well, I had a big deal with
There's
Walford.
the,
You know, he lied, and that
Console area.
doesn't do well with me. I told him, you will straighten it out, you got 2 weeks,
Oh, yeah.
or I'll park the next 2 cars on your
because that
desk.
central spine, it has natural.
When I have a contract with my brief,
The frame needs
that
the
means
body,
something
the
where I
body
come
needs the
from.
frame.
You know, a handshake is all you need,
Limits the frame from doing
and
this.
you wrote it down.
It's
So,
a
we
symbiotic
came
I mean,
relationship.
I've heard about people that are old.
I couldn't be happier.
Just twists.
With the logistics.
Oh, it's because the
of where
fiberglass
I'm
body
at.
shatters.
I got an airport,
But yeah, I was thinking.
my clients can get in
Same
there.
Two
there,
airports.
because you're
Yeah.
in a real bad accident.
Well, Lynchburg's a little scary.
You know, if like somebody
But
gets on the sign, push me,
I've got
don't
enough to
worry
make
about
it
The
work.
body will shatter, all the clients
We've got
shatter, so you
enough
just climb out the whichever window.
facility,
Shatter.
Are you
suppliers,
planning on going to? I
You know, in
usually
terms of
do
paint
to
materials,
Justin's,
yada, yada.
Different
And-
day in the fall.
If he wants to give me some advance warning.
I couldn't think of a better place to be.
Because I was thinking about.
Ironically,
putting
now
off
my
on
wife
doing
came. She went home to visit her folks.
brackets until
Her
the
mother.
fall, and if you're there,
He called me
to
and said, I need $4 grand. I said, for what?
definitely
I just
appreciate
want
it. So I was
45
planning on
acres.
doing it on my car and Alon's
Oh,
car.
okay. She wanted
We're
to move back to
actually having
Oklahoma.
a tech
You,
day.
she
you could
got jailed
actually
alone to
use
give
the
us a
new
building
bolt to
site.
drive out.
Yeah,
the
Give us
first
this,
bolt.
give us
That's
that,
what I was
give us
figuring.
that.
Although
And I said, no, I finally talked
you
her
really
out
want
of
the
it.
bolts coming from the front.
come back,
it's
she
easier.
kinda
So
sold
if
it at
your
a
current
loss.
bolts coming in from the front,
Of
they can
course.
drift just out of
But
this a cheap half.
This is just
Just get a cheap
ideal
half inch
for
bolt
what
from
I'm
those,
doing.
actually makes
So
it
how long
drive
have you been
it
in
out.
this location?
That's not the drift, you can bevel an edge
1983
on
we
it.
first,
Because
or
what
83,
the
84.
lower control arms
It
don't
took a
do
while
that.
to do all this.
If you look
It
at
must have been
the sea
about
looking at from above.
probably between 96 and 2000. My son came down and toured the place. You showed him around. He had a really pretty blonde with a tall blonde.
Well, we have a most unique automotive.
You can make it
setup.
shape like this, you know.
If
And
you
that
owned a Bricklin,
brings it back
or it
upright.
didn't make any difference.
If
We
you're
invite
using
you to come.
The replacement bolt, you're going to frig the
Camera
threads
it
in
up.
just enough. You want to run it
List
down.
of problems,
Just clean
and we
threads
will
back up.
show you what routes
And,
to buy and pick up.
I don't know. how
We'll
to
give
do
you
any of
written
that,
instructions
except
on
for
everything.
I have 1 half by 20 dies.
We advertise
20 dies. But
Always come and look.
the
Always come.
Tyler's car.
The best mechanic
all they
in
did
my
was just-
mind is you,
Shanty.
We just made
working
the
on
drifts.
your car.
It was cold.
And we'll help you
remember how
any
cold it
way
was
we
that day?
can to do a
The
car.
Corvette guy that was talking
I
to
don't
us died.
want to do brakes
Corvette
here.
guy that was talking to us died, Bill.
We do doors here.
He died.
Oh,
Better
oh,
than
you're
anybody
talking about.
alive.
Yeah.
Okay.
He died.
We put bodies on it. We
You're
make
like the
bodies.
angel of death because you go to see.
We can make our
David
bodies
Cameron.
someplace, but we can't get them on any place. We've tried.
Good time to bring it up.
And
Yeah.
if we can get people to help
Oh, we're
themselves,
actually
I'm not
having.
worried about him.
then
I'm
we
worried
have
about
done
me.
a job.
We're having.
We
a-
keep the
Bill
car
alive.
alive. We maintain a list of
Like
every
people
Bricklin,
torn up
but we
inside.
I
find
talked to
by
her.
zero.
I know, you told me.
We don't
No,
give
I
a
mean
shit who
recently.
owns it,
Yeah,
really,
you
to be
told me.
truthful.
Okay.
And I tell people, you're
I
just
think
because
she's
of,
living with Sharon.
They're
I
my
think I don't know if Sharon's love interest or just a roommate. I think
You
she's.
think you know where 95% of them are?
I have a list of 2,262 cars right
I don't
now
know if she's really gay or just bi.
with serial numbers and addresses. Now, out of that, there's
But she's
probably
cute.
50 of them that are probably bogus by this
Because that
time.
would be why you-
The cars migrate
Yeah, but I mean,
tremendously
you know, for
from
a
places to places,
52-year-old,
which is fine.
She doesn't look as
We
good as
have to
Diane Sawyer,
establish
almost.
what this
How old
is.
is Diane Sawyer? Like 70 something?
And you
No way.
Yes.
will
Who's got the
agree to
smartphone?
me
She's like
totally, I
70.
believe.
I
You've
know
got
smartphone.
age on you now.
Lie to me.
Diane, when did
A
you get
long time
I
ago,
went to catch the softball and I
my
didn't
boss-
catch it well.
Okay.
I got to
Diane
preface
Sawyer's
this
about
with,
70.
one of the reasons
Has she had work done?
that I got out of school
Don't
was
lie to me.
being able to make a
Look her up.
speech
How old am I?
without having it.
Like 60s.
I never wrote a speech about it.
No, you got.
I just know what I'm
eternal
talking
youth.
about. And I was
You're
doing
signing
an
autographs
engineering
now.
thing,
One.
and I said, what
He's
we
signing
do is
autograph.
not very fancy. In fact, it's
You
not
need
even
me
fancy at
after
all.
creepy.
We store
But
energy,
look her up. I mean, Diane Sawyer.
we release it at demand, under control.
And tell me she doesn't.
And that's it, folks.
How old is
That's what we do.
I'm working on it. but
And I
there's
said
no
at
Let me get you
this
that
big
back.
board meeting,
You're welcome.
there's no excuse,
There's
for a
no
link.
service, Bill.
except one, or
That's what I'm
Thunderbird.
gonna do because there's no service.
And they all looked and said, and I said,
Okay.
do you know what
When
it
you have a
is?
chance, look her up. She's
Okay.
about 70.
It's ego.
1945.
If you want transportation, a Fairline will do
Yeah.
fine.
Okay, so she's 60.
Get it, go to the window. You
Close
could.
enough.
Tell me she doesn't look
Yeah.
good for 69.
So what in the hell is the link
The,
for?
the ABC
Okay.
news lady?
Take it today.
I
That's your car.
I watched John Stewart. That's about it.
He doesn't
Ego.
even watch
Got it.
CBS. He
I
doesn't
think
even watch
she was Steve
me.
Harvey, that's right.
Ain't got no other reason.
Yeah.
Bricklin, same thing. BMW motorcycle. You can ride it, you know, you can get a Honda for a whole lot less money.
Tesla.
Tesla. Pure ego. Ain't no sense to it at all. And I like electric. I've got an electric car. Well, I can ride 64. Just see if we could. Put it in a Fiat 400 with a 4-speed transmission. We took 2 motors out of the plant manager's golf cart and told them they needed new ones and put them in the Fiat just to see if we could. You know, we don't have no fancy battery. We just had 8-volt lead acids. Yeah, and you know, it's the fun of the thing. But if you take it in perspective, you know, what happened here is more significant in the plant and the things that went on to make that occur than anything else.
Well, how influential or how much did Malcolm Bricklin actually do on a daily basis in the plant?
Zero.
Nothing.
Zero.
He was just the money guy.
He was just a money guy. When we get back and convene, ask about the seance. Okay? And I'll tell you the end of the rainbow. Okay, and I'll preface it a little bit about the corporate. The corporate was 2 groups, one making resumes and one doing the job. And the job guys were mine. I told them, I don't want no resumes. I want you to do your goddamn job. Then you won't have to have a resume. Because you'll make a car. You make a car, it's all good. And we made a car that's as durable as granite. And doesn't have any failure codes. No, I'm still working on that one, thank you.
Anybody else need a beer?
You know, frame-wise.
Thanks.
And I've taken 40 years and very carefully addressed everything that would be detrimental to its function as what a car.
Why do you think that was so important to you? Did it feel like unfinished business?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't leave things undone. It's not acceptable in my family.
Was there anybody else that was a possibility of picking up the pieces, or
Here or there?
here?
Oh, here, my daughter, my oldest daughter. The company's already in trust to them. And John's here, and my daughter has been in and out of Bricklin's most of her life. The oldest, she's worked here, she's done the hard work. She understands the functions, and I hope to be able to maintain it, you know, for the end of the end. If it's not, somebody will pick it up.
Right.
It's too important, one, and it's not that hard. You just got to think. Now, of course, that is not an easy thing to happen in our society. We have very few thinkers left, you know, and a lot of people, you know, John's not got the vision. I learned in Ford, peripheral vision is critical. I can walk down the aisle in a plant and tell you what tool is not running right by the sound. And I'm looking from here to here all the times. And I said, you can't fix only one thing on a car. Because you move this door to over here to make that margin right, well, this one went to hell. So you got to figure out how to work on both sides at the same time. So you got to look at the whole package. There's not one single thing that happens anytime. There's always somebody else got dented. Someone else got involved. And it takes a different kind of mind. And for some reason, and I don't understand it exactly, I go to bed every night thinking about what I can do to Bricklin tomorrow.
Well, when the plant closed, it was bankrupt. You obviously were without a job at some point.
Absolutely.
How were you able to buy 10 Bricklins and walk away with them?
Easy. What I did was I built the air door, But I went to the Wayne Bank, and the representative there, which I'd been driving 50 miles to get there, it goes way back. When I wanted to buy a van, I went in and said, Bill, I need $8 grand. He said, what do you go buy? A van. Where's it at? It's in Milwaukee. You have a title? I said, no. Bostrom's got a title. He said, where's this van at? Oh, they're going to bring it down Friday. I'm going to meet them at a bar on 8 Mile Road. Oh, okay. How much you need? $8,000. That's all. He gave me a check. Never signed a thing. I went out, got my van, got that. So I went in the bill and I said, Bricklin went bankrupt. And Jack, Bill, and I are going up, and we're going to unload 258 cars out the back door, and we're going to get 20 of them, because the deal originally was 20. How much you need? I said, I need $20,000. He said, oh, okay. No job, buying a bankrupt car. And Jack,
$20,000 for 10 cars?
No, that was my part. Jack Buell owns a 13-acre under roof marina.
Oh, okay.
He's a good friend of mine. He's got a 54 Corvette. He loves Bricklins to death. He has Panteras. He has, what would you like to talk about? Jack's got them. You know, you want an unlimited hydroplane with a fuel-injected turbocharged Allison? He got one of them too. So Jack and I get on the airplane on our ticket. They wanted somebody to go up. Buddy Byers bought the deal. And I'm sitting in the airplane, and Jack says, Buddy said he wanted to make $1 grand on the car. I said, okay. We were supposed to get it for $3,500, because that's what he paid for it, with 314 of them. So we land in St. John, we get off, and we start helping Buddy load the cars. He brought his son and 2 guys. That's all he brought. So Jack and I are working out in December, St. John. The snow is horizontal, blowing. Unbelievable. Every one of the cars in that picture out there, with the cars scattered all over the parking lot, okay, those had no batteries. It's behind the passenger seat. We made a 4-battery series and jump-started them and drove them on the alternators of the truck. It was a nightmare. The pedals were frozen in ice in some cases when the doors weren't latched or the hatch was left open. Who knows? And Jack and I picked out our cars, and every time we turned around, the price went up. It ended up at $6,500. So all I could buy was 3. I said, okay. It's a fun story. Jimmy Weekly, which was a cool dude, he's the one who I called over to look at the last car with a serial number on it. I said, this is history. I want you to be here for history. 2897. It's got the number on the wall, number on the frame, number on the dashboard. Now the doors aren't on it, but that don't count. So last numbered Bricklin. So Jimmy come over and says, you know why you can't load your car? He told him not to load your cars. Because he's getting free labor. Didn't cost him anything for it. So I went out and I got gasoline and I put it in 3 Bricklins, and I went and got spare tires. And he come out and says, you got to pay for them. And Buddy Byers got one bad arm. I said, listen, son of a bitch, send your son out here. Somebody's going to die out here because I'm not paying for the fucking tires. And he had been hiding parts in the cars. And I told him not to do that. These people are going to get you at the border. You got me up here because I know what I've been here. Well, he got caught. It cost $100 grand for that. And that's Jeff Berge, the president of the Pantera Club, who drew the picture of the Allison-powered Bricklin. I had a picture in there somewhere of it. But it had 40-inch tires on the back and extended the frame 3 feet just to see if I could. But anyway, Malcolm, came back and did his thing. But the whole point of this issue was that it was so tough at the end. And I got out of there and we drove back on the 23rd of December in a blizzard. Got in Ohio and couldn't go. Finally found a motel that had a room left. And it was unbelievable. But I came back with that car. That one came on the truck. And I put it down in Jack's warehouse. And I go down and Jack, he kept most of his We had one green car. We didn't have a driver for it, so we had a friend of ours owns a restaurant on Telegraph Road, big restaurant, and Jim wanted a green Bricklin. There was only 3 of them up there green, and they're terrible things. So we called Jim and said, fly up and pick your own goddamn car. And then we had a driver to drive one back. So that's the way we got away with that. I picked 2 whites and a suntan. And I had to sell the suntan to pay for the loan that I got to get the other ones. But I ended up that car.
So did you get the last VIN number?
Oh no, I didn't want that. I wanted that car because around the parking lot it was the nicest driving car, and it's got a personality. It's different than all 4 or 5 of the others I got. They all are like people. Every one of them's got a character. Everyone's got a personality. They're the same thing, but they're not. And I'm sure you find the same thing in the DeLorean.
So do you prefer one engine over the other, the AMC or the Ford?
Oh, absolutely.
Which one do you prefer?
Oh, I like the Ford. One of the reasons I've dealt with Ford more, Ford paid my salary, and Ford gave me the stock, which I opened my pool hall with, and did, you know, when we came down here, gentlemen, 83 was such a hard year in Detroit that my fiberglass company lost $107,000. My partner, which was active, I was just an investor, took the withholding taxes to pay the bill. So the IRS was pissed off, and the IRS came after me. And they came after them, and I had Cooper and Lybrand, and long story short, it was pretty unpleasant. By the time all things settled, the $94,000 house I sold for $78,000. The property I had in Chelsea, Michigan, I sold for $20,000 less than I paid for it because they had then decided they needed a road that you could turn a fire truck around on 13 acres of my land. And, you know, a few things like that. So Wayne Bank, Bill, gave me $20,000 to move down here. And that's how I did it. This building, I paid $4,000 down and paid off in time payments. And it wasn't how much more I pay, it's how much less you do. The house up there, when we built that house, had the subflooring only. I couldn't afford the rest of it. You know what I put on the floor? Bricklin carpet. I took the stove out of my motorhome and mounted on a thing with a bottle underneath it, and my wife cooked on a 3-burner stove out of a motorhome. Wow. We had no cabinets in the bathrooms or the kitchen or anything. We did that when I got the money to do it. And we now have hardwood floors and tile and whatever. It took 25 years to do it. The office didn't exist. We sit on the floor. There was no shower, no toilet, no nothing. And finally we got that put in. We just hung curtains up on string until we could finally put the room. And the way I got the room, I went up to the lumber yard and told Bob, or Robert his name was, I said, give me a pencil, paper. He said, what are you going to do? I'm going to draw the roofs. I want all the stuff it takes to make that roof. And he said, why we can't? I actually took contractors to lunch and couldn't get it done. So I asked 2 of the guys who worked for me at the time, I said, you know how to build a roof? Well, I thought my dad built a garage. I said, that's close enough. So I told Robert, I said, you sent all that shit over there with one of them funny looking hammers. Because I never had one of those claw hammer things. I wasn't allowed to do that. So we built the offices. We got the 2x4s up, we put crates of parts up on top of us, put 10,000 pounds up there. We put windshields up there, you know, to get them off the floors where we broke them. And then we put the walls up. Of course, we made a small mistake. I didn't know 16 centers meant chip. So we didn't have them on centers, so we tried to put the plywood up. That was in '93 when I did that because they had a big flood. So we had to take down one wall and put the things on the centers again. We finally got it done. And we built the office in the machine shop area. We did that, and they wanted so much money for the boards. Well, I didn't want no poles in there because we use it to work with. And they wanted like $125 a piece for the damn boards. And one of my employees at the time, older fellow, said, hell, we get 80 over, just cut it down. Oh, that's okay. What's that cost you? Well, we can do it for $150. That's okay, do it. I didn't know they were going to weigh 100 pounds apiece. And they were going to do this when they got up there, because this was green wood. And we put it up and nailed 2x4s down so it wouldn't bend too much. It wouldn't broke 2x4s, you know. We put it up anyway. I'd never hung sheetrock in my life. So I went up there and I got to hang all the sheetrock. I said, shit, I'll get them 12-foot long dudes. It'll be quicker. I didn't know what it was to put up a 12-foot sheetrock. Man, that's tough stuff, boy. But we did it. It ain't pretty. It's been up there for 15 years.
Well, when the factory closed, were you able to get any of the glass and things like that?
The whole deal in that period of time was I had no intention of doing what I'm doing. None. I built an air door because I wanted to prove the point. Then I sold 5 or 6 of them. Well, that beat the hell out of unemployment, and I didn't know how to do that either. And we were able to do it. Well, then, meanwhile, I was hired back by the receivership to do the Bricklin 2, which was a facade, but that's okay. And we were able to sell all the shit in the engineering room, all the shit in Whippany, and supposedly all the stuff in Arizona. And it all went to Robert L. Jarrett, Judge Receivership, Scottsdale, Arizona, where the bankruptcy was done for Bricklin. Concurrently now, the plant was under Canadian bankruptcy and done by another company totally. So I had no intention of being in this racket, none at all. And I make my little air doors in there, and I remember one of the guys that worked in the service area, named, oh shit, Norm something or other. Anyway, he started a business called Tri-In Motors, and he was repairing the cars. Well, he went over to the receivership people, Maury Adams, and he was buying the parts at $5 a pallet. And I was in Canada because I had no intention of being in the business, none. So we were just making air doors, and that's all we were doing. And then I went over and we had a big steak dinner and had all this thing. I said, let's tell you, the thing was Ray Noga. I said, I don't want to fuck with your business. And you shouldn't fuck with mine. I'm going to make air doors, and I'm going to, you know, race up Ford Motors and, you know, make car cassettes, and I'll buy them from you. I don't care. Anybody else want to ride or what?
Well, I'm letting the passenger car, the fan's not working, so I can't turn on the AC.
Well, just roll the window down and let it hot.
I don't want to get hot. I'm already sweating from the 2 trips I've done.
Well,
I want to show him something real quick.
You should have done something about it. But anyway, so we're fat, dumb, and happy. We have a few drinks and everything's fine. And about 2 weeks later, guy comes in and he's got a Ray Noga air door, which I had a patent pending on. I called him. I said, what the fuck happened to the drinks and the steak and the... Well, I just made one. I said, let me explain something. That one pays my rent or my mortgage and buys milk. I don't like one. Now, either one or two things. You get away from it, or we have a situation. To make the story short, I bought him out for $7,000 with a covenant in 3 months that he would never touch a Bricklin the rest of his life. I took over his building, his lease, and all the parts. Because he fucked with me. Shouldn't do that. Shouldn't do that. I then took on everything. Whatever you want done, we'll do it. And we'll do it better than anybody else. And that's how I got in. Then with that came a bunch of parts. I said, okay, fine. And then the parts started showing up that had been stolen in Buffalo, New York, in Rochester, in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. For some reason, I don't even understand how they got there. We had no distribution, but they were, during the bankruptcy, I loaded 2 semis that were to go back to Canada They crossed the border and disappeared. Gone. I loaded 7 cars on a car hauler, went to Arizona to be scrapped, which were all sold. We had 37 cars in the shop, both prototype and engineering cars and service review cars. We had a whole 20,000 foot setup line. We had a water test booth and 2 old gray-haired water test guys or QC guys from Ford that were doing fly spec audits. And then each station was a certified first-class mechanic that specialized in whatever ailment that was noted there. And went around, went to a hoist, raised it up, did the underbody work, let it down and drove right through like a small assembly line and went out the other door. And that was in about close to a 20,000 foot building. And we had workstations, and we actually they would route the cars out of Whippany, New Jersey, going to dealers, and we would reroute them to us, unload them, go through the audit, write them up, fix the stuff, put them back on the truck and let them go. We were picking up warranty service potential, but we were also developing, okay, what's wrong with the cars? And then we would have meetings. And those meetings, we would go over each item, and each car was written up, and there were stacks of stuff. This is the only problem book I had. This is how small it was.
Do you mind, Mr. Chairman, if I take a look?
Oh, by all means. And I've been working on that shit for all these years. That was my personal, I took that to meetings. There's letters in there, and there's items, and there's some that won't make any sense because I wrote it, but that's okay. I know what it was.
Did Bricklin lose any of his own money or just other people's money?
He never had any money. He lost every bit he had. Malcolm was bankrupt at least 3 times. He came to a meet in jeans that were so ragged that we went out and bought him some. Okay. Malcolm is an important kind of person, just like John was an important kind of person. These are not bad people, not at all. They are the reason that there is a United States of America with an industrial base that we have. Just like Henry Ford was important, Carnegie was important. People said he was yada, yada, yada. He also created the steel system. Rockefeller was an ass, but he created a bank system that worked. These people, Winton was important. Olds was important. Everybody that had the guts to step out of line and say, I will do it, are important. Malcolm had a dream. He was either gut strong enough or stupid enough to pursue it. He had borrowed, he didn't even have the money to start, close to $1 million. Well, $1 million will do a lot of things except one. They won't build a car. I've said this 100 times, we've done it more than once. When you started to build the car, the Bricklin, on Monday morning at 8 o'clock, by 10:30, the $1 million was gone. And you had to get some more. So he took car 2 up and he drug it up to Philadelphia, and he got $3.5 million more from the First Bank of Philadelphia, which took the act of Congress. The paperwork on that was incredible. And they demanded every time he went to the purse, stock, to the point that the Canadians government, owned 67%. Malcolm was a figurehead, but he was the man who started the thing going. He hired Dick Vollmer. Dick Vollmer was the guy that made it work. He's the that hired the people. He hired Maury Adams. He hired Smokey Hanselman. He hired me. He hired Tom Monroe. Malcolm hired Herb with Dick Alpeny. Okay, those are key people who did wonderful things in terms of this car. Malcolm spent 2 weeks in office in 2 years, accidentally. If he spent a week in the plant, multiple visits, it would have been a goddamn miracle. Because he didn't like it, and what he said to me privately, he says, "You guys don't speak English." And I said, "That's correct. Automotive people speak automotive jargon. Just like doctors have a jargon, accountants have a jargon, hot rodders have a jargon, drug addicts have a jargon. Everybody's got a jargon. It's your job to learn what's going on, because you're the man who can," and this is a quote which you've put in print, which I made, "motivate a rock." Malcolm has the ability to talk to people and instill in them that they're the most important thing on this earth. He has that ability. He's that good. He's tremendous. And he's to be able to talk people out of money over and over and over. And he still is doing it to this day. And he wants to make an electric super swift 3-wheel car, which I said, fine. Give me $100 grand and I will build a tube frame car with a very slopey body. You know, something, I've got some pictures in my file back there for what I want to do. And I would like to do it. I built a 1,200 horsepower, 400 horsepower per wheel. And I want a joystick drive it. It's got a lever, so I got turn left, turn right, stop, go. And I can do that. Yeah. But like I told him, no money, no ticky, no dooley. And Malcolm is still hustling to this day. He called me a week ago, still going. And I give him credit. He's 74 years old, and he ain't quit. I think that's great. You know, I really do. I have no intention. My dad died at 52, my uncle at 56. I'm 75. I have no intention of dying without being at work. You know, I'm going to keep going as long as I can move. And I'm going to keep doing stuff and keep creating and supporting this car, because that's what I do. And I kind of signed up for it. And like I tell people, I got 2 contracts. The one with my wife and the one with this goddamn car, and the other ones don't count. And I won't give up, because I don't think the car deserves a give up. I think it deserves going on. But I will not prostitute the car. No. I've changed what I think has to be changed only when I have to change it. And the only thing that's hard for people to understand, when anything breaks, there is a reason. I want to know the reason. And I want it not to do it again. I don't care what I have to do, if I can do it in any way whatsoever. But sometimes you get cornered on available parts. But we're making all urethane bushing kits. We've got a designed soy bar rear. We've got urethane body mounts. We've got, working on a new upholstery, a whole new upholstering interior, which is more complicated to make than anything you think of. It's just on and on and on.
Oh, where did the seats come from?
Boston. They came out of Milwaukee and they were sent to St. Catharines, Canada, Ontario, and they were upholstered there. And they were bad. I designed a seat with Hoover Chemical Carl Williford that was concave, enhanced the attitude, gave femur support, yada yada. People don't know what it costs to play seat. Back 40 years ago, a play seat for the seat spring was $104,000, and for the foam molds, foam in place, urethane was that's it down there anywhere, was $130-some thousand. So these people want all that money just to make a seat, tulip. up front. Well, at that time, one of the favorite things I used to say, when I was with Ford, and I had SQA, I had Supplier Quality Assurance, I flew all over. I had a team that flew all over America. Everybody that made parts for Ford in interior trim, we went into their factories every month. And we checked their parts, we checked their burn ratio, we did that, yada, yada, yada. And I used to jokingly say when I said, "This is Terry Tanner from Ford," you could hear their heels click. "Yes, sir, what can we do?" When I said, "This is Terry Tanner from Bricklin," they'd say, "Brick what? Where's our goddamn money?" And that's what I thought the whole time. And Buzz Starner, which was a purchasing agent, was a magician. He was a magician. He managed to get the suppliers to put parts out without getting paid, shipping them on their nickel. We never had a whole Bricklin in parts on the floor in Canada for probably the first 8 months. Everything was not there or special means coming, and the guy was out beating it on the ice, trying to make it the hard way. Well, that'll piss off quick, but that's all right. We had, this is an interesting thing. I didn't do it, I didn't bring it. There's a red book back there. They got my 2 guys fired. We did a study on feasibility of the Bricklin. With the engineering we had, the body material we had, and the losses, it's over there by the computer. We couldn't make a Bricklin and make a profit unless we made 100,000 cars. Gosh. Because, well, I'll give you an analogy that you people will understand. When you make a car, you can make that type of tooling. The dies for the bird cage were Kirkside, not hard killer, okay? Because you can cast that and it's cheaper. You know, we did epoxy dies for the cold press rather than hard dies. Okay, you can make that cheaper. You can do a lot of stuff where you didn't get the water cutter and you don't have a computer running it. You don't do this, you don't do that. Well, you can do a whole lot when you make a little number. But there's a thing called hard tooling. And I'm sure you've heard the term. And I give you the metaphor of a pond. And over here is this shore. Now on the shore where it's nice and dry, you make 250 cars a year. Those are the one-ofs. Why? Because you don't have to pass any of the bullshit of the government for 250 cars, except the most stringent safety. They don't move into your building with a desk and a staff to audit you. So you start in your pond as you increase your production. The water gets deeper and deeper and deeper as the cost goes up because of the tooling cost. When you get out here in the middle and you're making like 20,000 cars, you have tooling that's capable of supporting 100, or you're not going to be able to do it. At that point, your nose is underwater and you ain't making money. Now you got to get across that pond and get to the other side and start coming out of the water in your production, FPV, before you can breathe. And that's when you start making money. Well, you do a study on that. The industrial engineering standards of Detroit for the content of work in a Bricklin is 89 man-hours. Okay? From the government, we had 505 people. Do the math. Now, I accept responsibility for a large percentage. Don and I did the manpower proposal. The Canadian government would not allow us to pay but $4 an hour. We wanted to pay $7. They wouldn't let us do it. So what the deal was, and I thought was pretty cool, they gave us 80% of the salary to train the people to be valuable. Where were the people coming from? They came from the unemployment rolls. Mm-hmm. And they came not voluntarily. They came, you walked in, get your check. There'll be no check here next week. Report to Bricklin at 7 o'clock in the morning. Oh shit. You mean I gotta get up? I gotta take lunch. I'll have to drive over there. Oh my God, Grandma never did that. Dad didn't either. Great family.